And today is a great day that, in fact, we are coming to the most important part of our research. Because here, today, what we are going to do is, in the last time, we have seen what is variables and what are the things what we have to do. So today we have seen how we convert the variables into measurable research instruments. How we can convert the variables to measurable research instruments. So that is today's topic, that is session 1. And in the session 2, we will go with a practical application. So let's try to recall what we have learned last time, because in our last sessions, we were trying to understand the research foundation, because when you go to data collection, research foundation plays a major role. So we have seen why important is data collection, how we convert data collection from the research questions to research objectives, to your propositions, to your hypothesis. So we understand that a strong foundation leads to a valid research. Your research questions form the basics. So in the next one, we have seen, in the level 2, we have seen what data is needed. And in the last session, you might have noticed that your conceptual model that is made through the interventions of your theoretical model really gives out your variables. What are the intervening variables? What are the independent variables? What are the control variables, dependent variables, moderator variables? And in the conceptual model, we know the relationship between the variables, how they are related. And we know in research, we are really trying to bring out the real life as data through samples to the researcher's desk, which we are going to convert for analytics and assessments and descriptions to make research decisions. So these relationships leads us some indicators, how each variable is related to the other variable. So what we have to understand, from the concept to data, we are transitioning, or we are in our journey from the concept to data. The conceptual model gives us the variables. From that, we draw out the relationships. From the relationships, it gives us the indicators which data to be collected. These are the indicators that gives us which data to be collected. So in the real one, level 1, we understood what is the reality, and the level 2, how this reality has to be captured. Because if you take real life examples, if you are doing a study on environment, what we need is, in fact, the data what you are trying to address. If you are doing a study in education, like how AI is influencing student performance, or if you are doing a study on health, as we discussed, last James was saying how tuberculosis, the people who smoke are more prone to tuberculosis. And in businesses and in social segment, as well as in agriculture, where we're discussing with the rover. So these are the real life examples. And you as a researcher, you have a real life scenario for your research. So in the previous level 1 and level 2, you have learned what reality must be captured. what reality must be captured, you will understand when you know the system. That is your research system, your environment. Then when you identify the variables, when you clearly understood the relationships, and you define the indicators that makes us to really capture the reality. The indicators are the data to be collected. So this is what we have done in our previous session. Now we are moving to today's session. And I say this is the most important part for a researcher because of the reason, if you are not able to capture the indicators and the reality from the real population as data samples, your research will be a research, but it will become worthless. So today we are going to see how variables become a measurable research instrument. And I put a star extremely important because of the reason that we cannot, if we cannot capture reality, through the indicators, and if you don't learn that, what all things you have done up to now will not be helpful for you. So that is why this is called as a important thing what we have to embrace very well. So we follow like this. We know our research starts with a conceptual thinking and idea, like James thought, how energy dependency, how it is affected. Like Vanessa thought, how the mentoring for young entrepreneurs, how it is going to help them, the mentoring what they got at their senior 5 and 6, how it is helping them. Like Elizabeth, how digital inclusion, even with AI applications in the libraries, will improve the library usage, improve the performance of the people who use library, their more understanding of the library. So these all conceptual thinkings helps you to move to the next level of your variables. And you know how the variables you have identified, like the theoretical and conceptual framework. So you will find independent, dependent, and moderating variables. Now these variables, we break them into categories, and to the research, we are bringing them as indicators. What is an indicator? The data what you collect indicates the relationships and how it works within the conceptual model. Now, when you convert your indicators to collect data, now how you are going to collect it? Like if you are going to buy milk, it gets in two kinds. One you get in packets, the other one you buy from the person, from the dairy person, and use measuring cups, isn't it? Now you may ask me, Dr. Paul, we can have dried milk also, isn't it? Milk powder. That is your secondary data. Leave it. So let's don't come that into the discussion. What I'm saying, milk is measured in liters, isn't it? But when you are dressed good and you feel you are handsome, and you look at your wife or your spouse or your daughter or your sissy or your mother and asking how I am today, isn't it? So the person, the respondent, the person cannot tell you, your wife cannot tell you, oh, Joe, you are three better, you are three handsome, isn't it? If you have a scale already at home, then it is fine. So, you know, there are qualitative data. Then when you work with that one, then we have nominal, ordinal, interval ratio kind of data which we can measure. I'll discuss this in detail. So we have to determine the data type and the appropriate scale of measurement. This is more important. Each research scholar has to understand very clearly what are their variables and what data can indicate the respective variable, and the data comes under which category. So this is the most important understanding. That's what we are going to do today. We are going to understand with some sample researches. Now, once you understand this, what is your next job? You have to develop an instrument to collect this data, isn't it? What is the data? The data becomes your indicator. This indicator goes to represent your variables. And you are checking the relationship between the variables, isn't it? So now today we are going to learn this research instrument where we will develop a questionnaire, how to develop an observation, how to do a document review that matches to the indicators. Today, I'll not be able to explain how to collect data exclusively for a ICT research, but all ICT research scholars, this is same. Everything is same. You may be collecting the data as an output of the algorithm what you make, or the process what you have made, or the machine learning stuff what you have done. So it depends, but you have to collect data. Now, this collected data should be reliable, isn't it? Because you can collect data, but does that data respond, or does that data indicates your variables under study? So we have to collect this data and make sure it is reliable. And from that data, we have to generate measurable scientific evidences. This we do by your statistical testing. When you do your hypothesis testing, when you do your different kinds of analysis through different analytical tools. So this is a transformation journey for you. From your first research question, you're going to the live field and you are going to collect data that indicates what is actually in reality happening in the field. So for this, what we need is, we need good data, isn't it? We need good data. We need good collection tools. If you need good data, you have to design a good tool to design. You have to design a good tool. And when you have good data, you have good analysis. When you have good analysis, your research become. I hope you are getting what I'm interpreting on today's session. James, you can go on mute for some time. Yeah, no problem. All right. So this is, today we are moving from that. We are going to 4 and 5. That is major things. How to identify the data, how to categorize them, and how to create the research instrument. So the core idea for today's session, we are going to learn not only variables, because people think that if my variables are good, then things are fine. No, we should learn how these variables must be transformed to indicators, or to say that how these variables must be transformed into measurable things. You may recall when I started with you our research journey, I told you that what all variables you define, what all variables you identify, it should be measurable ones. If you are not able to measure it, then it becomes a challenge. So we are getting a lot of raw data that through the data collection, we convert that into a measurable data, and we can categorize. We can categorize the data based on the shared characteristics. Also, we have to develop scales, because the data what you collect, we have to assign scales, like what is shown on the board, like you can have low, medium, high. We can assign values to indicate degree or level. Then these all gives us indicators, because when you assign, if you ask the level of satisfaction. Somebody says, I'm dissatisfied. I'm highly satisfied. Okay, I'm okay. Are you getting me? So this is helps us to associate with the variables what we represent. To get all these indicators, we need proper data collection instruments. So you can have interviews, questionnaire, observations, output from sensors, the data what you get using your machine learning algorithms. Once it is implemented as a machine learning model, the accuracy of the trained model. So these are the various ways you collect data and use instruments to collect data. So I want to say a key thing. A good research starts with a good measurement. If something that cannot be measured, and if you are using variables, even if you translate them as the indicators, but if it cannot be measured, it is very difficult. So you have to make one thing in your mind. We can have a number of ideas with us. But what is our job? Our job is to translate. Our job is to translate that ideas into real world as an evidence. So the idea, the concept has to come to reality. So this is the transformation journey. What I've already told in my previous board. Variables to data, categories, set scales, are collected as instruments, and it gives us the real data. So members, this is what we are going to study today. Now, if you look at variables, forms to data category, I request you to kindly open your research. So what I'm saying, kindly open your research, all of you, open your research, and what you have to do, take your this is a practical session. Take your independent variables, take out your dependent variables. That is the first task I'm going to give you. I may be asking you questions. Okay, I'm giving you just 5 minutes. I'm stopping recording. So you do as per this board. Okay, over to you all. Thank you.